Hello and welcome to Ag PhD. I'm Darren Hefty.
And I'm Darren Hefty. Thanks for tuning in today. Today on the show, we want to talk a little about how you're going to fix your nutrient issues on your farm. There's a very high probability that not having the right fertility in every field is costing you money. So how can you address that? Well, one of the ways is with plant tissue analysis to try to figure out how to fine-tune your fertility program. We want to talk more about that today.
Well, one other thing you'll have to fine-tune just a little bit is disease control. We're seeing some late season corn diseases showing up. We'll talk about that today.
We've got a weed of the week that isn't the most common out there, but it can be difficult to control. We've got an iron talk later in the show, but first, here's our Farm Basics.
Farm Basics is brought to you by the Liberty Link trait and Liberty herbicide from Bayer. The most reliable weed management solution, Liberty Link and Liberty herbicide are the link to efficient row crop production and sustainable weed management.
We invite you to join us at the free Ag PhD Field Day that's coming up on our farm Thursday, July 27th.
You know, it's hard to even know what to start talking about here at the field day because there's so much going on. Well, what I would say is this. When you come to the field day, you'll see a lot of the things that we talk about on the Ag PhD TV show and the Ag PhD radio show. You'll see them in action in the middle of the growing season, so you can make decisions for yourself whether Brian's crazy with some of the stuff he's talking about or Darren is right on the money with what he's talking about to get higher yields.
All right, the thing I'm most excited about for our field day this year is we are bringing in some of the top corn, soybean, and wheat farmers in the world, not only to talk to you about things they're doing, things you can do on your farm to increase yield and profitability, but also many of these farmers are going to have plots on our farm. Well, they already have plots on our farm that they've been managing all season long with our Ag PhD research lead, Glenn. It's awesome. There are so many different treatments that are out there, and then you can see, hey, this is what this farmer is doing to help improve his yield, improve his profitability, do a better job with his land, and it's just awesome, I think, when you can look at leading experts who are actual farmers coming in from around the country to talk to you about things you can do on your farm.
All right, so you can see all the above ground stuff and what's going on and what kind of plant response we're getting from some of the different things that we're doing. You'll also see more below ground activity than you've ever seen before at the Ag PhD Field Day. We're gonna have an awesome interactive area on the Field Day site where you can get below ground and see what's going on.
We will have a lot of live demonstrations during the day as well, weather permitting. Hopefully
with
we'll be able
running.
to.
So people will say, well, you talk about this or you talk about that. Yeah, we'll be doing it that day, provided the sun shines.
Right, well, the sun doesn't even have to be shining, but normally in our part of the country, we're very dry. The temperature's pretty nice. It's 85 degrees for a high, 60 for a low. So hopefully, and I'm praying that the weather's going to turn out great that day so we can be out there doing live planting, live spraying, live harvesting, live strip tilling, tiling, you name it. We're going to have a lot of stuff actually running in the field to show you. Darren and I will bring you through some of our research plots and just give you an idea what kind of new technologies are out there that we think are exciting, and talk a little about our experience with some of these new technologies and maybe how some of them aren't going to necessarily fit you as well.
All right, you may be thinking, those guys will raise corn and soybeans. We'll also have wheat and sugar beets and sunflowers and peanuts and cotton and a whole bunch of crops. I think we've got more than 10 crops across the field day site as well.
As always, we will have great food. We've got a bunch of good facilities just in case the weather turns against us a little bit. So we have air-conditioned facilities, places we can get inside, plenty of things. You'll have a great time. Just go to agphd.com and please do us a couple of favors. Number one, pre-register. If you can pre-register, that really helps us out so we have enough food for everyone during the course of the day, and also so we can get you through and get you into the field day. It's 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. on July 27th. The other thing, we're doing something a little different this year. Yes, the field day's free, but we'd love to have you bring a jacket. Bring an old seed jacket. Bring a jacket. Maybe you go buy a new one. We're going to give away a lot of jackets to people in need this year, so please bring your jacket, drop it off at the registration.
All right, again, you can find all the details at agphd.com. One other thing we'll be talking about at the field day is how to stop our weed of the week. Can you identify this week's weed?
Looking to maximize your yield potential? Monsanto BioAg can help with microbial seed applied solutions. Available for a wide variety of crops, they contain hard-working microbes that help your plants access key nutrients, enhance their root and shoot growth, and help them better withstand stress all season long, all of which add up to a higher yield potential for you. See how microbes can help you at monsantobioag.com/500trillion.
The main goal of harvest today is to get what you harvest. With the RPR system, you can have no rotor loss.
Customer satisfaction that we're getting for every single one we sold is just impeccable. Being able to use one set of concaves, there's nothing else on the market that compares to it.
So far, looking behind the machine, I'm thoroughly impressed with them. I'd definitely recommend them to another farmer.
The major thing was stopping rotor loss, and we've already done that. Getting companies to help me is my big thing right now. The thing works, and we're very happy with what we've been doing.
There are micronutrients throughout the league, Joe, but let's take a look at Micro 500.
Yeah, the synergy of the micronutrients in this guy have raised the bar on the field. Those others are just wannabe Micro 500s.
So you think this is the player you'd want on your team?
You bet, whether it's offense, defense, special teams, Micro 500 always has a place on the field.
Okay. You can check out Micro 500 stats at agroliquid.com.
Are you looking for an easy way to apply dry powdered products to your stored grain? Do you want to use the applicator recommended by industry leaders for products like Diacon D and other dry powder products? Changing Time CT applicators successfully apply a diversity of products quickly, easily, and accurately. The innovative CT applicators are designed to give you the most accurate application of products such as talc, inoculants, fertilizers, and other dry products. For commercial use or on the farm, you need the applicator industry leaders are using. CT applicators for the changing times.
Avoid dry run failures with the new Hi-Pro Force Field pump. Providing the ultimate protection, this wet seal pump will save you on costly in-season downtime to keep your sprayer running. Now all you have to worry about is the weather. Hi-Pro, helping you spray better.
Leading the charge in strip tillage for more than a decade, the Soil Warrior brings the future to your farm today.
Our next topic is plant tissue analysis, and you might say, well, wait a second, you guys have talked about plant tissue analysis a couple of times already this spring. Why are you talking about it again? Well, here's the reason why. Because I can almost promise you that the nutrients aren't exactly on your farm or on my farm in balance and at the right levels. And if you're going to figure out how you can better invest your fertilizer dollars, you've got to have data. Yes, we want you to do soil tests, but you need to track during the growing season how you're doing on plant tissue analysis too. This is incredibly important. I can tell you that every high yield farmer we work with, they're doing plant tissue analysis all season long. This is so important, we just thought we need to talk a little more about it and go into some more details again today.
Last time we brought this topic up, we got a couple of responses from people about, well, what about sap testing? You know, this is something that is just starting to come into practice on some farms across the country, but it's just not this big thing yet. And even a lot of the guys that are doing sap testing are kind of trying it out and comparing it to what they're seeing with plant tissue testing that's been done for a long time. The other question that we got from a lot of people was, okay, well, how sure are you on these ranges on plant tissue testing? Look, that's a work in progress too, and it's something you have to track on your own farm just a little bit to kind of keep an eye on, well, here's where my levels were, and here's what I saw for a yield. Maybe I could be a little bit better in some things. But really, the whole base here that Brian's talking about is just starting with a program on your farm. Getting some soil testing done, then going to those same areas where you have a soil test from and pulling some plant tissue analysis to see, okay, I know what's out there in the ground, now what's actually getting into my plant, and am I running short on things? Because for too long in agriculture, we've just gone by, well, I read this and this has been the information that's been out for 20 or 30 years that I need to be at these levels. And what we're seeing with our yields in the meantime is our yields have gone way up, and those levels just aren't true anymore. Now we need more to be in the soil, more to get into our plant to feed it properly when we're getting these high yields.
All right, so for Darren and me, just you know, I'll be up front with you on our own farm. Here's our yield goal. In the next 5 years, I'd like to average 300 bushel corn and 100 bushel soybeans. All right, last year I think we were 220 on corn, 70 on beans. So not bad. I'm not complaining about that, but I want to bump it to the next level. So we've been spending a lot of time with high yield farmers around the country. And here are a couple of things that we've learned, and now we're going to take it to this next level. Yes, we're doing a lot of soil testing, and I think what we're doing is great. We've even made our grids a little smaller. We're doing some zone stuff. I mean, you want to make sure you're testing in separate areas separately. But the next step with that is doing plant tissue analysis all season long and tracking those numbers. So, for example, if I go out to the exact spot where I had a soil test, I go to that spot, and every single week, first thing in the morning, I pull plant tissue analysis. Then I build a database to say, okay, these were where my parts per million were all season long. Here was my yield on that exact spot. So I'm looking at one spot, not a whole field average or anything else. That doesn't get you where you need to go. Look at an exact spot. And then you can say, okay, well, these were where my levels were. What do I need to do to bump those levels a little bit? So let's say my zinc was at this level. Well, now I can try moving that up a little bit. Yes, there's a lot of experimentation and trial and error and everything else, but if you don't have actual data on your farm that you continually get throughout the season, you don't have enough information to say, okay, I can see that all season long my zinc levels were really low, for example, or my boron levels were really low. Wow, that is a nutrient that I am absolutely going to do everything I can to fix going into the next season.
You have to be intentional about this program. Hey, this is what I'm going to do, when I'm going to do it. And you think, man, this is going to take a lot of my time up. It really takes maybe 5 minutes to pull a plant tissue test. So even if you're doing 10 or 12 spots on your farm, it takes an hour. It's not that big a deal, and you're out looking at fields anyway. Why not be productive when you're out there? So take that extra 1 hour per week to understand what's going on with fertility, which is likely your biggest expense on the farm.
All right, the big reason why we're talking about this today, again, even though we have discussed it a couple times earlier this spring, is we want you to keep going. In other words, don't just pull one test. Don't just pull one test a month. That is not enough information. You've got to be out there every week. And you don't have to do a whole bunch of spots. Just be selective on where you're going, so it's a grid sample point for soil testing. Or if you don't have soil tests, just pick a spot. You can soil test now. You can soil test again this fall if you want to in that same spot. And every year keep going back to that spot and keep going back to that spot, not only for soil tests, but plant tissue analysis all season long. It's really going to help you, I can promise you. If you have more data, you're going to get a lot smarter.
And if you have questions as you go throughout the season, well, we're there each week. You can send questions to us, radio@agphd.com. We'll talk about them each day on our Ag PhD radio program.
Well, another thing that's important if you want high yields is controlling our Weed of the Week. We'll show you how to do it on your farm coming up later in the show.
With the success of the Case IH Tiger Quad Track and Magnum Road Track tractors, it's no secret why Case IH is the leader of the track. So it wasn't surprising when the competition started imitating us. But only Case IH offers a 5-axle design to give you a smoother ride, more power to the ground, with less berming and compaction. Still, we're flattered. In fact, if we weren't already red, we'd be blushing.
Hey, I'm Lisa Kelly. You might know me from history's Ice Road Truckers. But this summer, I'm looking for a change of scenery. We'll be visiting Love's travel stops in search of people who, like Dello, are game changers. I can't wait to meet as many of you as possible. Join me as I make my way across America with Chevron to get the word out about its game-changing heavy-duty diesel engine oil, Dello 400 with Isosin advanced technology. We'll see you out there on the road all summer long with Chevron, Dello, and Love's.
Introducing the SoilMax ZD48, the newest addition to the SoilMax Gold Digger lineup. The first plow designed for smaller class tractors, the ZD48 has been tested on tractors weighing between 10,000 and 16,000 pounds with excellent results. Designed for row crop farms, vineyards, irrigation, and specialty crop farms. The SoilMax ZD48 will install tile up to 48 inches deep, as well as install 3 or 4-inch tile. The ZD48 truly opens up the world of tile installation to more farms than ever before.
When there's work to be done on your farm, you can't afford to be grounded. Whether for repair or upgrade, you need quality new, used, and rebuilt parts fast. Worthington Ag Parts has what you need, and our distribution network offers same-day service to much of the country. And with 15% off all parts ordered in July, now's a great time to get to know us. Worthington Ag Parts, providing quality parts at quality prices and adding value to your farm operations for over 50 years.
When you think about corn plants, one of the big potential yield robbers that can pop up during the season is leaf disease. So we're going to talk about some of those leaf diseases and the length of control you need to get in order to protect your yield.
All right, well, one of the diseases that there really isn't a lot you can do is Goss's wilt. The reason why is it's bacterial. Whenever we start finding bacterial diseases, I go, oh no. As an agronomist, that is not what I want to see. With a fungal disease, I can go out and spray a fungicide. With a bacterial disease, yes, there are some bactericides that have been out there before, but we just haven't found that we're getting real great results out of different bactericides.
So you think about Goss's, or you think about bacterial leaf streak or xanthomonas, those types of things. Yeah, you've got to look for hybrid tolerance if we want to have the best control. Now, when you think about gray leaf spot, I've got a story for you. I was out in Illinois last summer, and I was in a helicopter flying over some fields, doing a little scouting that way, just to see if we could see some differences in some trials. And sure enough, there's a green streak right down this field. And I'm in the helicopter with the farmer. I said, all right, you got to tell me, what'd you do in this streak? He said, well, gray leaf spot was bad again this year. We sprayed not only early in the season at V5 to V7, we sprayed again at R1, then we came back in a couple of weeks later and sprayed another application of fungicide because last year it gained us 30 bushels having an additional shot of fungicide on late. And I said, wow, that's awesome, 30 bushels. So why did you only do a strip this year and not the whole field? And he said, well, it was kind of an accidental late spraying last time. So he said, I guarantee in 2017 we'll be doing that more widespread because leaf diseases can keep popping up later in the season.
All right, so Darren talked about gray leaf spot. That is a fungal disease. Another fungal disease that is really bad, especially as you go south, is southern leaf rust. I was in the southern United States talking to some high yield farmers, and they just said, man, this is the worst disease. And I asked them, well, do you have any other diseases at that time? Nope. Just this. This is all we're seeing. And I said, you know what, have you tried any Folicure? Folicure is labeled in corn. It's a really good fungicide if we're just talking rust. And they said, you know what we found? Folicure actually works pretty good, but our problem is it doesn't last long enough for us. As you go south in the United States, it's like a greenhouse, and they just continue to have disease problem after disease problem, so the southern rust would just keep showing up. And since Folicure doesn't last as long as some of the strobes, they just found, you know what, we'd have to go back and repeat applications too quickly, so we'd rather do a combination, get a Trizol for kind of a little bit of curative activity together with a strobe for a little bit longer residual.
All right, so you may be thinking, okay, I've got to make multiple applications here. I've got 10-foot tall corn. How am I going to get coverage down through that canopy to protect the plant? Well, where do you really need the coverage? You need it on those upper leaves down to about that ear leaf. So you do need to penetrate the canopy a little bit. So using great big coarse droplets is not going to be the way to get that accomplished. Finer droplets is good. Many times we'll be talking about aerial application. If that's the case, you've got that push as that plane comes across or helicopter comes across that can help move it down in the canopy too when you've got good fine droplets to get the job done.
Yep, so again, small spray droplets, try to use a little bit more water, maybe a little bit more spray pressure, spray at the right time. You don't want to be out there when there's a whole bunch of dew on the plant. I mean, there are just a few little things you can do to try to get more effectiveness, get more bang for the buck out of that fungicide you're going to spray. There are a lot of diseases that can show up late in the season. I mean, there are others we haven't talked about yet, like northern corn leaf blight and eye spot, and just a bunch of different things that could affect your crop. I also can't promise you that when you go out and spray this fungicide that it's going to give you a positive return. It's going to be expensive if you're going to spray late in the season. But you know what? If you're already at a high yield level and your conditions are right for having some disease, it's at least worth running some trials. So we do a lot of this kind of stuff. We recommend a lot of this to you. If you don't try some things, then you don't really know if that's going to pay off, just like Darren's story a little bit earlier.
We also have the Ag PhD Corn Diseases Guide and a Soybean Diseases Guide too. We worked with the American Phytopathological Society to put these together, so we've got some great pictures and information to help you identify which disease is out in your field and what you can do about it.
On most farms around the country, it's not too late to be looking at disease in corn. It's also not too late ever to be looking at weeds, especially if you've got our Weed of the Week. We'll talk about it coming up next.
The Weed of the Week is sponsored by the Enlist Weed Control System from Dow AgroSciences, a new herbicide and trait system that will build on glyphosate.
Farming isn't just in the land, it's in you. Take control of weeds like never before. Enlist builds on the Roundup Ready system, combining proven control of a new 2,4-D and glyphosate in Enlist Duo herbicide. Protect what matters without changing the way you farm. Talk to your seed or crop protection supplier today.
Our Weed of the Week is just an annual weed, but it is still a tough one. It's toothed spurge.
You know, when you get out to pull weeds, and I do a lot of weed pulling, because if I just see one, I can't let it be out there in my field. When you pull tooth spurge, if you break it, milk comes out. And it's one of the few weeds that happens. So if you think, wow, that kind of looks like that tooth spurge, just break it in half and see if milk comes out.
All right, the reason why we first started identifying this weed as a problem was probably about 20 years ago or so in South Dakota. And guys, we're going out in soybeans with just Pursuit. And Darren, how well did that work?
It didn't work well at all. So all of a sudden it's, man, what do I have to do? And maybe this is one of the first chinks in the armor for that ALS chemistry. What we found in our corn rotation, we weren't getting a lot of activity out of the pre's until we had either Verdict or Balance Flex in the mix. Post-emerge, we did a really good job overall with Buctrol plus atrazine if we got out there early. I like status on it as well. In soybeans, I like to start off with Sharpen. Authority MTZ is a nice product too. I like that Sencor or Metribuzin in there. We see less pressure from tooth spurge. Post-emerge though, I'm really happy for Extend soybeans and Liberty Link soybeans because Dicamba and Liberty have worked well.
Well, what do you think about Roundup? We don't really see Roundup resistance, but the plant toothed spurge does seem to be a little tolerant.
Well, you've either got to go with a real high rate of Roundup or mix something with it. When we've got one of the burners in there like a Flex Star, we can do a pretty good job.
All right, in wheat, we'd probably suggest starting with Sharpen, follow up post-emerge with Husky.
That's all time for this week's Weed, but Iron Talk is coming up next.
We love the quality, we love the construction. We're looking forward to working with Morton in the future.
They have this down to a science. They know exactly what you want. They know how to make it happen. It's an easy process.
I would definitely recommend Morton. From the first time I met the salesman to the last nail that the crew put in, it has been a positive and professional experience.
I'm so happy I found Morton because they just make the job so easy.
Find the building of your dreams at mortonbuildings.com.
This Agro Liquid line is something special. A lot of really impressive playmakers. Take a look at Sure K. This guy is an enigma.
But wrap your head around the exceptionally high plant response when compared to conventional potassium sources, the research-proven plant availability, plus flexible application options and mixing capabilities.
Really stellar performance stats. Sure K is a true standout, and that's a winning goal on any field.
Are you looking for an easy way to apply dry powdered products to your stored grain? Do you want to use the applicator recommended by industry leaders for products like Diacon-D and other dry powder products? Changing Time CT applicators successfully apply a diversity of products quickly, easily, and accurately. The innovative CT applicators are designed to give you the most accurate application of products such as talc, inoculants, fertilizers, and other dry products. For commercial use or on the farm, you need the applicator industry leaders are using. CT applicators for the changing times.
Celebrate 175 years of Case IH equipment heritage with a limited edition Case skid steer or compact track loader painted with the same red paint of the venerable Case IH farm equipment line. Only 175 are being built and they're going fast. Built to the same specifications on the same assembly line as the award-winning regular Case models, these machines are a working piece of history. Get yours before they're all gone. Hurry into your local Titan Machinery location or go to www.red175.com to learn more today.
Introducing the SoilMax ZD48, the newest addition to the SoilMax Gold Digger lineup. The first plow designed for smaller class tractors, the ZD48 has been tested on tractors weighing between 10,000 and 16,000 pounds with excellent results. Designed for row crop farms, vineyards, irrigation, and specialty crop farms. The SoilMax ZD48 will install tile up to 48 inches deep, as well as install 3 or 4-inch tile. The ZD48 truly opens up the world of tile installation to more farms than ever before.
Iron Talk is brought to you by Case IH.
The AFS Connect Farm Management System from Case IH connects you, and only you, to the information you need most from your equipment, from anywhere, at any time. AFS Connect, only from Case IH.
If you want to boost your high-yielding soybeans to new levels, it may be nitrogen you're running short on. How to apply nitrogen in soybeans late in the year is the subject of today's Iron Talk. First of all, why would you apply nitrogen? Here are a few givens. Soybean nodules in ideal soil and weather conditions can only produce up to about 70% of the nitrogen needs. Organic matter can release 20 pounds of nitrogen per 1%, and fertilizer sources like MAP and DAP that are often used in soybeans really don't contain that much nitrogen. Let's take this example. 70 bushel soybeans require the uptake of 305 pounds of nitrogen. Nodules can produce up to 210 pounds. If soil had 2% organic matter, that may give you another 40 pounds of nitrogen. If you had applied 100 pounds of MAP to meet most of your phosphorus demand, you'd get about 10 more pounds of nitrogen, but even with all that, you're still 45 pounds short. The ideal time to apply additional nitrogen in soybeans is at the R3 stage and later. Prior to R3, only about 10% of a soybean plant's nitrogen needs have been met. The challenge to applying fertilizer this late in the season, though, is that the crop is big. One solution is a high-clearance sprayer or a high-clearance spreader. On our farm, we've used both over the years. We've applied some controlled-release urea in strip trials through a spreader. We've also looked at some liquid nitrogen with a nitrogen stabilizer in a high-clearance sprayer. Once the nitrogen is spread, you need some rain or irrigation water to get it into the soil and up through the roots to feed that high-protein soybean seed. There is some promising yield data out there with nitrogen application in soybeans, especially if you have high-yielding soybeans and low organic matter soils. We'll see this year if it pays once again. That's all for today's Iron Talk, and now back to the show.
Closed captioning for Ag PhD is sponsored by Norwood Sales.
The Quick Belt from Norwood Sales is your all-around grain handling solution. Our conveyor-based system uses an 18-inch belt and a 10-inch tube, which minimizes seed damage while moving more than 10,000 bushels an hour. Keep your grain and your farm moving with the Quick Belt from Norwood Sales.
Well, that's our time for today, but before we go, I want to again invite you to attend the Ag PhD Field Day. It's free. It's on our farm. It's Thursday, July 27th, just a one-day event. Last year we had over 10,000 farmers from around the country and around the world attend. We'd love to have you there. Please pre-register at agphd.com. I also want to invite you to join us for the Ag PhD radio show. You'll find us each weekday on Sirius XM channel 147 at 2 p.m. Central.
And don't miss the next Ag PhD TV show. We'll have another Weed of the Week, Farm Basics, Iron Talk, and a whole lot more. I'm Darren Hefty.
And I'm Brian Hefty. Thanks for watching Ag PhD.
A healthy soil helps to keep our air and water clean while providing a medium for productive crops, pastures, and shelter belts. To learn more about how farmers are improving the health of their soils, visit the Responsible Nutrient Management Foundation at rnmf.org.